With training camp starting tomorrow, the title is the question everyone wants to know. What is up, Finn fans? Tomorrow is technically the start of training camp. I have a whole video where I'm going tomorrow to break down, training camp preview, what to look for, even the CBA rules with training camp and how day 1 to day 2 to 5 to day, all these days have different rules and regulations, all these things that can't happen. That is tomorrow. I'm going to go into full detail on what to expect from training camp. But this was reported today from Adam Schefter. Packers GM Brian said quarterback Jordan Love will not practice until the two sides can get a deal done, the contract extension that they've been working on. So then that brings up a lot of people wondering, is Tua Tagovailoa going to do the same thing? And a lot of people are starting to ask that question because they are both represented by Athletes First. There are a ton, I think there's like 47 plus players in the NFL that are represented by Athletes First. And that's something that, it runs through your head. So I thought to myself, this is, training camp starts tomorrow. I kind of said I expect them to get him signed before training camp starts, but obviously that's really not going to happen anymore, being that training camp starts tomorrow. And maybe they can hash something out in the next 24 hours, give or take. But I don't see that happening anymore. So now my expectations and my timetable kind of shift a little bit. I went from from jump, I was saying, I think he'll get signed before training camp, definitely before the season starts. Now it's a little different. And I'll tell you what my expectations are and all that stuff by the end of the video, or probably like after I do a little spiel. But you guys know my stance on should he. There's a difference between me saying what I expect and what I want. And I already talked about that ad nauseum. So if you want to know, you can literally go back and look at the 400 videos I made about that topic. But Jordan Love is not practicing. They had practice today somewhat. Again, there's rules when it comes to CBA and the training camp. So they had somewhat of a practice today, and he went out there in a hat and shirt, and he was there, but he will not practice until the two sides can get the deal done. And like I said, athletes first is Jordan Love, Jalen Ramsey, Tua Tagovailoa, Christian Wilkins, Javon Holland, Dak Prescott. There's a lot. Not Jordan Love, Daniel Jones, who got a fat contract. I'm just trying to, like, off the top of my head, give you guys some names. So there's a lot of players, and they kind of all coincide. But here's my thing with Tua. Do I think, first off, Tua is going to report tomorrow. If Tua doesn't report tomorrow, I'll come on here and say I'm a big dumb and I don't know what I'm talking about, and my football takes are hot garbage, just like the smell that comes from my armpits. I'll say that if he doesn't report tomorrow. I think he'll report tomorrow. I think he'll be here tomorrow, kind of like Jordan Love is. Will he practice, or will he do a sit-in, kind of like Christian Wilkins did, which, again, same agent. Christian Wilkins did that for, like a week or two, where he sat in, he was there, he stretched, he warmed up, and then when they did 11 on 11, 7 on 7s, he was like, nope, I'm going to go sit down because I don't want to take the chance of getting injured. That's a possibility. Now, I don't think he's going to hold out. I don't think he's going to sit out. I don't think any of that stuff is going to happen. Like, if they don't come to a contract agreement by September, which that to me, I'm going to tell you now, here's my timetable now. It's shifted. The Dolphins need to get him a new contract as soon as possible, especially if he does start to, if Athletes First is saying to him what they said to Jordan Love, and he starts to be like, I'm not going to fully practice until we get this done. Then they need to get it done as soon as possible, because Tua Tagovailoa gives the Miami Dolphins the best option to have any type of success this season when it comes to him, Mike White, and Skylar Thompson. They need to get it done very much before the first preseason game. Now, I think even if he got his contract back in March, I don't think he's playing the first preseason game against the Falcons. I think he'll play the second game but I don't think he'll play the first one. They need to get it done before then, though, because I'm going to word this because I know I'm going to say it. And people go, what else are you going to say? And it's something that's always been brought up. A ton of players in the locker room are noticing it. And a lot of players in the locker room are not happy about it because you have constantly come out and made it known that Tua is your guy, that Tua is your quarterback and this, and that, and all that stuff, yet you are not paying him. Where does that stand for me, Javon Holland, who has the same agent and is a top 5 safety in the NFL? Are you going to drag me along? And a lot of these players are looking at this and kind of getting a little peeved off because they feel like Tua deserves a new contract, and they think, what happens when I'm up next? Because you let Wilkins walk, you let Robert Hunt walk, you let Andrew Van Ginkel walk, you let Brandon Jones walk, and now you're dragging your feet with Tua. That's something that the Dolphins internally are probably dealing with as well. Not only do we need our quarterback for the season, but we need to also set a precedent to the players that if you go out and you lead the league in passing yards, and you go out and you are a first, ballot Pro Bowler, and you go out and you play well for a good 75% of the season, we're going to make sure that you are compensated for that. They need to do it. Now, Adam Schefter came out and said this on the Pat McAfee show.
Fan here, got another one in the building as well. Tua, we're hearing there's a big gap between what he wants, what the Dolphins are willing to give him. As a Dolphin fan, you kind of look at Tua, okay, is he going to be able to beat a Patrick, a Josh, a Lamar in the big moments? Is that kind of where the Dolphins are? And what's the hold up there getting that deal done coming into training camp?
Well, I don't think they're as far along right now as the Packers and Jordan Love, obviously. And I think both sides still would like to get it done. The Dolphins have been very open about the fact that Tua is their guy into the future. But the question is, what is the number? And Pat, you were talking about all the different numbers, right? What is the guarantee on Tua? What are you guaranteeing Tua, who's had an injury history? He just has had that. So I think that has to factor in and make that deal a little bit more complicated and layered and nuanced than some of these other deals. But he's going to be paid up there if they can get it worked out. There's no doubt he's deserving. They've established that he's their guy in the future. But I think that when you have some of the injuries there, I think some of the questions about the guaranteed money become interesting.
So, not as far along as Love and the Packers. Injury history is something that worries them, which, if you can go back in time, would they give Joe Burrow the same type of contract? Because that man is injury prone. Like, yes, he went to the Super Bowl his second year, but he cannot stay healthy if his life depended on it. So that's, a factor in. But like he said at the end, even Adam Schefter's like, he deserves it, but it's about the money. So that's where this all comes into play. And that's where all of this whole situation comes into play. Now, again, I think worst case scenario, they get him under contract by the start of the season. But if that's the case, then it's the situation again where the title of the video, will he sit out and how long will he sit out? Because if Jordan Love is willing to sit out until the contract gets done, and then Tua goes in the same camp and same situation, then he might sit out all of training camp. And that would hurt. That would hurt not only his development, but that would hurt the development with the wide receivers and all of this stuff. So I think it's in the best interest of the Dolphins to get this done sooner rather than later, again, if that is the situation. Now, here's my answer to the question. I don't think so. I don't think Tua's dad will let him do it, and I don't think the type of player and the type of mentality Tua has will let him sit out. I think he will do what Christian Wilkins did. I think he will kind of show, like, look, I'm not messing around, so he'll maybe a week or so be like, I'm not doing until we come to a better understanding, a better agreement, and all that stuff. And then, I don't think he plays the first preseason game. Like I said, I didn't think he was going to play the first preseason game, even if he had a new contract. But I think he'll start practicing and do 11-on-11s and do the full-fledged and all that stuff, because he realizes that, yes, the market is the market, and he feels like he deserves a new contract regardless of the question marks that are above his head with, yes, he stayed healthy for one whole season, but can he do it again? Can he produce the stats that he did again last year? But also, can he get over that hump that hurt us at the end of the year? There's those question marks there, but he still thinks that he deserves the contract. But again, he's a team player. Team player in the aspect of the guys on the field, not necessarily the guys up in, upstairs, because they didn't really treat him right his first couple of years, going after Deshaun Watson, going after Tom Brady. You know what I'm saying? So he owes them nothing. But the guys on the field is where his mindset is probably at. So I would be highly shocked if he sits out and he doesn't do anything all of training camp and say, it comes to the start of the season, he still is on a contract and he hasn't done. I would be utterly shocked if that happens. Another situation where I'll come on here and say I'm a big dumb. So I think worst case scenario, he gets a new contract before the start of the season. So like the cuts happen and you know how there's like a week or two before the season starts and the end of preseason and training camp. I think he gets his contract there. Worst case scenario. And I'm talking worst case scenario and contract wise, because again, I don't think he'll sit out, but maybe worst case scenario for him, he don't get one and he has to play on the 5th-year option. Best case scenario, it happens before Sunday when it's open to the public on the 28th. So we'll see how this all pans out, but it's setting a precedent, and I'm probably saying that wrong, for the other players. Because, like Adam Schefter said, they made it publicly known. Tua's our guy. Tua's our quarterback. Tua's our guy. Tua's our quarterback. And it's been how long then since you paid him? Well, But also, you can't all put that on the Dolphins, because the Dolphins also are trying to cover their butts. Because we had 1 year out of Tua where he stayed healthy for the full year, led the league in passing, all these stats. We need to see it again. So they're kind of like, we want to pay you. We want to give you your contract. But also, if you regress back to where you were in 2022, 2021, we're kind of screwed. And that's kind of something Barry Jackson talked about, where it's like, it's a double-edged sword. So this is a whole sticky situation. It's the same thing with Jordan Love. Jordan Love had a half of a good season, and that's probably where the like kind of stuck part they are with Jordan Love and the Packers, is because he had half of a good season. They need to see that again before they give him that big contract. But they didn't pick up his 5th-year option. No, they didn't. They gave him a 1-year contract extension. So it's this whole rigmarole with this situation, and the Dak Prescott's just sitting back like, whatever. Because he has all these clauses where he can't be tagged again and he can't be traded and all this stuff. So if they don't give Dak a new contract, he's going to be the best quarterback available in free agency next year. But that's kind of what I got for Tua. Little rumor out there, last thing I'll say about Tua is a little rumor out there that he's not happy with the Dolphins, but he's also not happy with Athletes First, because the fact that this isn't getting finished and he is in the situation that we're all talking about. Supposedly that's the rumor, is he's not happy with either representation. So we'll see how that all pans out. Last thing I want to talk about before I get out of here, the Dolphins are meeting with Yannick Ngakoue today. So not only are they meeting with Emmanuel Ogbah, but they're meeting with Yannick Ngakoue. And if you guys remember, I think it was yesterday's video, I said if I'm the Dolphins, I sign them both. They're meeting with them both, and supposedly they're meeting with more pass rushers. So they're trying to assess the loss of Shaq Barrett and add more. So it's going to be very interesting what happens. Like I said, I got a video for you tomorrow, kind of previewing training camp, going over the rules and regulations and kind of what I'll be watching and all that stuff. So other than that, I will see you guys tomorrow with day 1 of training camp. I don't even know if I'm going to name it day 1 of training camp. I don't know. But I'll see you tomorrow. Like usual, stay classy. My friends out.